Alrighty guys, here we go, brake boost. Oh, come on baby. It's kind of lost a bit of its pizzazz. Doesn't feel very fast. Oh, that's really bad actually. 0 to 100 in seconds. It certainly does not feel fast. Hey guys, check this out. We are here with the Ford Ranger Tremor. It is yet another limited edition Ranger from Ford. This one, they're selling 1,150 units of it. It is based on the mid-spec sport trim, and it adds actually quite a lot of off-road stuff. So essentially, you go to the dealership, pick one of these, you go to carsauce.com/buy, then you get your car, then you take this off-road, and it can essentially do it straight from the factory. It does cost more. It also has an interesting price, 69,690 Australian dollars. That's got to be on purpose, Ford. And it's about $3,500 more than the Ford Ranger Sport that it's based on. So actually, 3,500 bucks, this might be a bit of an off-roading bargain, but I'll let you know about that in today's review. So today we're going to take you for an exterior tour of the Ford Ranger Tremor. Going to be trembling in your little boots. Then we're going to check out its practicality, look at its interior, see all the changes in there. We're going to drive this thing because as you guys saw, it's not fast and emissions seem to have made it a little bit slower, in fact. And then we're going to drive this thing on road, see how it performs. But of course, we're going to take this thing off road as well and see, do these changes, these pretty major suspension overhaul changes, do they actually make any sort of difference? So let's get into it. Alrighty guys, let's talk about the way that this thing looks. What's different? Well, first of all, you're going to see this Conker grey paint. It's actually shared with the Ford Ranger Raptor. It used to be exclusive, but now you can get it here as a special color for the Tremor. It also gets some, well, it gets some unique bits. For example, it's got a unique off-road grille. Not sure why they call it. Maybe it's because they have these auxiliary lights, which they put in there. Very, very bright LED lights, actually. Got the classic daytime running lights here, the C-clamp, but there is still halogen bulbs in the assembly. Come on, Ford. I know you can do better than that. You've also got a radar here. That is for your autonomous driving. This thing has a very good autonomous driving system, but we'll come back to that when we drive this thing. It's got more unique things. For example, here you have 2 rated tow recovery hooks, which you hopefully won't be needing when you go off-road. And you've also got a steel bash plate, apparently enthusiast grade. Don't know what that means, but it means that you get at least some underbody protection. So yeah, looks a bit different, certainly looks nicer than a Sport, I think. Like the Sport variant, you still get the blacked out Ford badge here, and you've also got a 360 camera. Again, you get that as part of this Tremor, and it's got a little washer on it so you can clear off any debris. Let's check out the side. Alrighty, let's talk about the side. First thing you're gonna notice is it actually looks quite wide, and that is because it has a wider track. It's the same width in track as you would find in a Wildtrak X, but you are paying quite significantly less than that, although you can't get that anymore. That was also a limited edition, and all of that is because of this. So these are 17-inch wheels. They're actually matte black. Not that you can tell, we've clearly been off-roading, it's all muddy, but a lot of experts would agree that 17-inch is the perfect size so you can put on a lot of rubber. These are, sounds quite dirty, General Grabber all-terrain 3 tires. Actually a really good off-road tire as well, and it's a wider tire too, and that's what helps give it a wider track. You've also got upgraded suspension in there. We'll come back to it, but it's Bilstein dampers with an external oil reservoir, and that makes it, well, quite significantly better for off-roading. Here you have functional scoops to vent air out the side of the engine bay. They've actually gone ahead and deleted now for all Rangers and Everests. Used to say V6 or bi-turbo. That is now gone. It's just a piece of plastic, which I think is a bit of a shame, to be honest. You've got another camera here for your 360 camera. It's also got blacked out mirror caps. You have blacked out door handles for your keyless entry and go. Very tinted privacy glass here. These are cast aluminium steps, very similar to what you'd find on a Ford Ranger Raptor, actually. And it's really good. It just means they're super strong, especially if you do whack it when you go off-road. You get this unique sports bar here, and of course, Tremor badging. Are you shivering in your timbers yet? Also this, love this feature. You have a side step, so it's easier to get into the tub. And otherwise, it's a big fat ute. Let's check out the bum. Alrighty, let's talk about the way that the bum looks. What's new? Well, obviously the Tremor badge here. You've also got these partially LED lights, but still bloody halogen bulbs. Come on, Ford. Got the Ford badge there, by the way. Ranger is spelt out proudly embossed into this metal tailgate. And we also have a 3.5-ton braked towing capacity, and it gets a new feature, which we'll talk about on the inside. But essentially, it makes backing up with a trailer a lot easier. All right, let's talk about what it can fit inside of its bum, because being a ute, a lot. Also, I love this. It's got a torsion bar that runs underneath, and that makes it super duper light. So if your kids are opening it, just makes it easier. You get heaps of space in here. here. I'll put it up on the screen now, but essentially it is class leading. You can fit a Euro pallet back there if you want. Also got some pretty smart features too, 12-volt socket. You've got these movable tie-down points, and it comes with a bed liner as well as part of this Tremor pack. So a lot of really good stuff, a lot of really good inclusions, especially for $3,500 more. Actually, I'm starting to think it's kind of worth it. Let's check out the inside. Alrighty guys, let's talk about the interior now of the Tremor. What do you get? Well, first of all, different to the standard Sport are these vinyl seats here. They're embossed with Tremor in them. They're actually an all-weather seat, apparently water resistant, so you can wash them off if you need to, at least with a damp towel. I probably wouldn't put a hose on it. You also get some different features. They call it ebony, but this looks pretty black to me. It's all scratchy materials, of course, like every Ute. Touch around and none of it's very pleasant. This is nice and soft though, all around. And actually for an interior space in a Ute, it's relatively quiet, doesn't reflect too much noise. Also, you get all weather mats as standard. So, you know, you don't have to deal with the dealer trying to scrub you with that stuff. You just get it anyway. Otherwise, it is very much an interior we're used to. So a very nice leather steering wheel, great to hold on to. Very functional as well to control different buttons. Up in front of you, you get a digital instrument display. You just don't see that on a lot of competitors, to be honest. And it shows heaps and heaps of information. You can really fiddle with it to your heart's content. This display here, it's not the biggest screen you can get in the Ford Ranger lineup, but they're all literally as functional as each other and really, really good. So what this gets, which is unique, is the off-roading screen. So if we press the button up here and then we press off-road, it brings up a camera view here and we can see a bunch of other telemetrics as well. That's in addition to the Sport. So really good to see it. And you're also going to see a few new modes as well, which is trail turn, which we'll come back to, and also off-road cruise control. Again, we'll come back to that. The screen has wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. Honestly, it just works so well. And even though you do have some air conditioning controls in the display here, you still have physical buttons to control all the most important parts. So yeah, that's awesome to see. Storage as well is really good. You have a little storage area here that's rubberized so things don't come and whack you in the face. You have a pretty big glove box, a couple of cup holders, little fries holder there, little image of fries in there. Got a wireless charger too, though it's not that rubberized, so my phone doesn't really stick to it, to be honest. And another little storage area to the right, USB-C port, USB-A port, a nice soft center armrest with heaps of storage. This one's filled with tiny teddies. You're not going to win my approval, Ford, by giving me tiny teddies. Let me tell you that. You're also going to see your drive mode selector here. Now, this has a lot more buttons than a regular Sport variant because it has full-time full drive. Again, great to see. And in the center is a new button, Trail Assist. So you press that, and now when we back up, we can use that to control the trailer. I've actually used that in the Ford F-150, and it was a great feature. So good to see that it's made its way down here to the Ranger. I think all new higher trim Rangers and this one will have this going forward. So great to see. And that also means that your drive mode selector actually moves about 50% more. So it takes a bit more effort to change your drive modes. A weird little quirk, but something I thought was quite interesting. I've spent so much time in Rangers now. And you have little storage areas here where they would otherwise have these pop-out cup holders. So I'm really upset that they don't do that. It seems like weird cost cutting. You don't need to do that for. Just put in the bloody cup holders. How hard is that? I should mention these seats are about 6-way adjusting with lumbar support too. So they are actually quite comfortable. I do wish they had adjustable under thigh support, but it's okay. You also get these aux switches up here. And finally, the speakers in here, they don't sound very great. Here's my EQ tune. So if you want to make it sound a bit better, I would recommend use that. Let's check out the back seats. Alrighty, so, oh, that was a thunk. Don't know if it was a good thonk, but it's definitely a thonk. So I'm 5'11". I don't have the most amount of legroom in this segment, but I do have plenty of headroom, and toe room is okay as well. These are some pretty serious floor mats, to be honest. You have a couple of air vents, which is good to see, and a 12-volt socky wocky. Would have been better if there was some USB ports back here, but I'll forgive the Ford Ranger this time. Scratchy materials up here, but this is all nice and soft. You've also got this pull down center armrest, which is always difficult to pull, with a couple of cup holders and some nice leatherette there. And again, the same Tremor vinyl seats. Very durable and hard wearing, according to Ford. So yeah, look, the back seats of the Ranger, they've never been the best, to be honest. And some competitors, even like a Toyota HiLux, you do just get more space in the back. But let me know what you guys think of the interior in the comment section below. And of course, if you want to buy one of these, especially before they run out, head to CarSauce.com/buy. We have a dedicated team of car buyers who are on your side to get you the best price on your next Ford Ranger or any new car. We have thousands of dealers who we literally make fight each other to get you the best deals possible. We can source cars from literally anywhere in Australia delivered straight to you. So if that sounds good, which it certainly should because the service is totally free for you, by the way, then head to CarSauce.com/buy when you want to buy your Ford Ranger Tremor. All right, let's launch it. Alrighty guys, here we go. Brake boost. Oh, come on, baby. Here's the thing, and I'll talk about this in a moment, but it's kind of lost a bit of its pizzazz because of new Euro emissions. It doesn't feel very fast. Oh, that's really bad, actually. 0 to 100 in 13.3 seconds. I wasn't expecting it to be quite that bad, but it certainly does not feel fast. For reference, I do use specialist timing gear. It connects to many different GPSs to get our exact speed. So for 13.3 seconds, it's yeah, unfortunately not really the best, but let's drive this thing normally. Alrighty guys, driving the Ford Ranger Tremor. Let's put our foot down. Oh, get that 2-liter bi-turbo whirring away. Yeah, look, this isn't my favorite engine in the Ranger, and it probably never will be. Still, let's talk about it. So, 2-liter, 4-cylinder bi-turbo diesel engine, and it puts out a pretty healthy 150 kilowatt of power, 500 newton meters of torque. You might be thinking, Matt, hang on, isn't that a little bit less power than when it first launched in the all-new generation of Ford Ranger? Well, yes, and that's because this is now a Euro 6 compliant engine. That means that to meet those strict emissions, yeah, Ford has added AdBlue to this engine, and it's also reduced the power slightly as a result. So you put your foot down, it doesn't feel all that fast. To be honest, a Toyota HiLux actually does feel a bit quicker, especially now that that is a mild hybrid. And if you want to learn more about that, I'll link that down in the description below my review of that. Still, let's get back to the Ranger Tremor. So it's based on the Ranger Sport trim, which is about middle of the range, but it actually gets some things over that, which makes it quite a bit better. So first of all, let's press 4A here, and now we're in 4 automatic. This thing has a permanent 4-wheel drive, and what that means is when it's raining, when you're on like a gravel road, things like that, you can have this car in 4 automatic, and although it is still rear-wheel drive biased, it can send up to 50% of torque through to the front wheel, so that's a good thing. The other thing that the Ford Ranger does very well, frankly best in class, is its driver assistance features, because it'll hook you up in the center of the lane, it'll keep you a safe distance from the car in front of you, and it's not overzealous, it's not annoying. You can turn it off if you want to, but I don't, because it just makes for these longer drives here just better. It's a lot easier. So yeah, big thumbs up for that. Obviously, the biggest difference between this and really any other Ranger other than a Wildtrak X, and of course the Ranger Raptor, is that it has a wider track now. So now it has a 30mm wider track, and that's purely because of its different suspension setup. So it has specially developed Bilstein position sensitive dampers with external reservoirs, and what that allows for, as you'll see in a moment when we take this thing off-road, is just more wheel articulation. It's also got a raised ride height. It now sits at 261mm of ground clearance, again because of the suspension, and as a result it can clear obstacles a bit better, and it's just better for off-roading. However, on-road, I think it just takes a bit of a hit. The ride just doesn't feel very settled. It feels quite firm. Obviously there's no weight in the back, but I drive every single Ute with no weight in the back, and yes, this is definitely a firmer ride versus a Ford Ranger Sport, for example. There's no doubt about that. However, it does actually feel more stable, surprisingly so, just thanks to the bigger wheels and the wider track. You're essentially just bigger on the road, and so yeah, that does mean that this thing, well, it just has that real road presence. I quite like it actually. The 10-speed automatic thankfully remains the same. They updated the torque converter when they made this new generation of Ford Ranger, and that made such a world of difference, and the shifts are pretty much imperceptible. So it's worked out to be a very good transmission, unlike the previous generation, which just had, well, it was just bad, frankly. Steering as well, look, it's a bit light, it's a bit wafty. It's certainly what you would expect in a Ute, so I can't really take points off that. I don't know any Ute that drives any better than this, frankly, except for maybe a Volkswagen Amarok, and again, I'll link that review down below. But yeah, apart from the ride comfort, it is just a really easy Ute to live with. I don't love this new Euro-compliant bi-turbo diesel engine. I actually think that it's lost kind of that fun characteristic it had before, and also in terms of fuel efficiency, it is definitely not very fuel efficient for a 4-cylinder. Obviously the HiLux with its new mild hybrid system, well, that is more fuel efficient, still not amazing, but better. The Isuzu D-Max you can see as low as the mid-ranges of 7 liters per 100 kilometers, which is very good. This one, on this drive, I'm getting 10.2 liters per 100 kilometers, and that is mostly highway driving. So frankly, they position this engine as the more fuel efficient engine, better for touring, but I'll be honest with you, the V6 engine, it gets pretty much identical levels of fuel efficiency, just because it doesn't have to work as hard as this 4-cylinder engine, and it feels substantially more powerful and specifically a lot more torquey, just because it has a lot more torque to it. So yes, on road, I think the Tremor actually does suffer a little bit frankly. However, where it doesn't suffer is off-road. So let's take it off-road. Alrighty guys, so now we're going off-roading. First things first, let's put the car into neutral, put the car into 4 low. And ultimately that means that no matter what gear we're in, we should have ample power and torque despite going at a lower speed, because you don't really want to go too fast, do you? The other big thing is we're going to press this button here and that brings up our off-road menu. So there's a couple of things that the Tremor adds that you don't get in the Sport. First of all, you get off-road cruise control, which is pretty cool. It'll keep you at a speed under 31 kilometers an hour, but at a constant rate. And that means that if you're on really rocky surfaces, things where your foot can hit the accelerator on and off, it just makes it a bit more stable. And then we have trail turn, which is really cool because it can improve your turning radius by 25%. It actually locks either the left or right rear wheel, and it only activates when you turn the steering wheel to full lock. So it's not always in your way kind of thing. So while we're driving to this off-road track, we should also talk about the different drive modes. There are quite a few. So we got eco, tow haul, slippery, we have mud and ruts, we have sand, and then we have rock crawl, and that's the one we're gonna stay in. All of these different drive modes help with different things. Essentially, it changes traction, throttle calibration, transmission calibration as well. So first we're going to test the trail turn assist. This one's interesting. You can't have it with the rear differential lock, so I've unlocked that now. And then all we have to do, like I said, is turn the steering wheel full lock, and you're going to hear it probably. And it just means that we get a better turning radius, and it really does make a difference. So I've also turned on our locking rear differential, which you can do through this screen here. And this is our off-road menu. So we have a full front view of the track, which is really good. It means that if we see any big jagged rocks, we can avoid them. And like I said, if we turn this wheel all the way, that's when that trail assist turning system turns on, whatever the hell it's called. And yeah, it does make a difference. And by the way, you can change this view to a lot of different angles, including a full 360 that will change depending on what mode you're in. So now there's a pretty gnarly track in front of us. So I'm gonna turn the diff lock back on. That turns off our trail assist, not that we really need it here. And this is gonna be a great time to talk about these dampers. So like I said, they do have a little bit more travel, and that's what also enables us to have a better ground clearance. But really the benefit of having these is that they have an external reservoir. And oh my gosh. So unlike where you would have a damper that could possibly overheat and become very, very stiff, well, this, it helps with cooling. How much it helps, who really knows? But what it does enable, like I said, is better ground clearance, better wheel travel and articulation. Oh, this is a very steep incline here. This will be interesting. You can see it on the camera angle there. But it's also the wheels. Like I said, it's got bigger wheels to it. It just has more rubber. I'm gonna turn off the locking diff. Turn here, see if this trail assist will pull me around all the way. Yeah, definitely not. You know what? I tried, Ford. I tried to use your system and it did something, but clearly not quite enough here. Locking diff back on. And so when you combine these Bilstein dampers with the external reservoir, that's the big thing about them. The bigger wheels, the bigger tires, these off-road tires, well, it just means you get something that's off-roading straight from the factory. And I think the natural thing to ask is, well, Matt, Fatty Matty, can't you just go to an ARB and get all these upgrades yourself? Well, the answer is yes, but it will be far more expensive than the 3,500 or so premium you are paying in this system here. Not to mention, it's all warranted by Ford. It's actually all tuned by Ford as well. So what you're essentially getting is an off-road capable sport version of the Ranger, which in my eyes is pretty good, especially when you consider that it's about $1,000 cheaper than a equivalent Toyota HiLux Rogue and is frankly quite a lot more capable off-road, at least on paper. In practice, they're quite similar, but this definitely does do better. And if you want to go watch my Toyota HiLux Rogue review, I'll link that one down below as well. Let's try this off-road cruise control. We have to set it here. We're going to keep it real slow. We can go by 0.5 increments. I'm going to go to 3 kilometers an hour. And this is pretty cool, I will admit, because it just modulates everything and you can get it to go really, really slow. We can get it down to 2 kilometers an hour, and I'm being told to speed up, so I better do that. And a couple more things, because I know you guys are interested. It has an 800mm wading depth, which is actually very, very impressive. That's as low as you can go in the water before you start to risk flooding the engine, which is never a good thing. And also in terms of approach angle, it's 32 degrees. The departure angle is 27 degrees and the ramp breakover angle is 24 degrees. Wow, this off-road cruise control is actually really impressive. It's kept me at literally the same speed at pretty steep declines and inclines. And all of those numbers, by the way, are almost as good as the Ford Ranger Ranger Raptor, their flagship twin-turboed V6, heavily off-road focused version of the Ranger. So yeah, you definitely get something quite impressive straight from the factory. So our last test here is testing out the articulation of the wheels. And even though the wheels, they aren't necessarily all on the ground at once, it definitely has pretty decent wheel articulation straight from the factory. Yeah. Tickle me impressed. I quite like it. That's definitely not the expression. All right, let's get into our final thoughts. Alrighty guys, final thoughts on the Ford Ranger Tremor. Should you buy one? Well, honestly, I actually think it's very good value versus the Wildtrak X, which I didn't really love. I think that based on the Sport being pretty cheap, especially when you compare it to an equivalent Toyota HiLux Rogue. For the off-road capability, the driving dynamics, it is actually a very, very good ute. Should you wait for a BYD Shark, for example? Well, I'm not sure about that, especially because this is in limited supply. Only 1,150 of these coming, so yeah, you kind of got to get on one now if you want one. And of course, if you do want to buy one of these, make sure you check out carsauce.com/buy, where my team will get you the absolute best deals on your next car. And yeah, I'm sure we have a few of these as well. So check it out. Ciao for now.